Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I've had another election prediction to do, another 2020 election, this one being for Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. The first video on my channel just over a month ago was Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and now we're going to do an updated election prediction for Joe Biden versus Donald Trump for January of 2020. For the 2020 election. So we will start off by filling the safe states as always. South Dakota, North Dakota, all of the Nebraska districts is second. Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, South Carolina, Indiana, and Missouri. That puts Donald Trump at 125 safe electoral votes. And Joe Biden, being the Democratic nominee, probably coming out of the Democratic nomination after a two-horse race with Bernie Sanders is what it's looking like it's going to be, him coming out being the nominee. He would win all these states safe, including Oregon. He would win Illinois safe, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., and Maine's first district. So that would put Joe Biden at 183 electoral votes, safe electoral votes, to Donald Trump's 125 safe electoral votes. Now, we'll start off, as always, by filling off the likely. After this, we will start off by filling off the likely, lean, and tilt states to either candidate. We'll start here on the east this time. Sometimes we like to switch around. New Hampshire would go by a lean margin. Hillary Clinton was not very popular here. Obviously, Bernie Sanders won the primary here. There's a good chance Bernie Sanders will win the primary here for the Democratic nomination this time, but Joe Biden could also win it. But the overall message of that is compared to Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden is a lot more popular in the state of New Hampshire, which would enable him to do better in the state of New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton only won it by a few thousand votes, within 0.1 percentage points, I think, something like that. But Joe Biden would probably be able to win it by 1.5 to 2%. Donald Trump probably wouldn't want to put too much resources in this place anyway. Maine at large, I believe, would go likely, and Maine second would go tilt. Now, Maine second in a blue wave year did flip back to a Democratic candidate by a very small margin. It did go to Obama both times, Maine second district, but Maine at large, I believe, would go by a likely margin purely just because of the math. Maine's first goes safe, Maine second goes tilt. You're going to have a likely margin towards Maine at large. But looking mainly at Maine's second district, I believe that it could show a lot of the patterns around the country, that this is going to be a very close election, but I believe at the end of the day, it probably would go by a tilt margin to Donald Trump. The state of Virginia, I believe, will go by a likely margin to Joe Biden. Some new polls came out putting this at a very close race for some of the other candidates like Bernie and Warren and Buttigieg, but Joe Biden is an establishmentarian candidate. He will be able to do well in the state of Virginia, as he did with with Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. So in 2020, he'd be able to do well here as well, overcoming the fact that it was a strong toss-up state in both the elections he had in the presidency, and he is from Delaware and everything like that. So he would win the state by a likely margin. The state of North Carolina, I believe, would go by a tilt margin. This hasn't gone blue since 2008. Did flip a Senate seat here in 2014 to Thom Tillis, who's up for re-election in 2020. But the state is naturally going to be very close. It went to Donald Trump by 5 in 2016, and I think that undoubtedly it's going to be a lot closer than that. Compared to a lot of the other southern states, he has very bad approval ratings here, and I believe that it's going to be within 1%. This could be a big call here, but I don't think it's going to go to Joe Biden. I think it'll go by a tilt margin. From the state of Georgia, I believe it'll go by a lean margin. There were actually some new polls that came out showing Joe Biden having a lead by 4 points, one even showing him having a lead of 8 points. And obviously that's not realistic. I believe in actuality it is going to go by a lean margin to Donald Trump. But the thing about Joe Biden is he is able to turn out the black vote while also being able to capture the trends that you're seeing with the suburban vote in Atlanta going more Democratic. So the state of Georgia would go by a lean, but you could see maybe in the second term, if he were to run, he could even win that state. The state of Florida, I believe, would go by a tilt margin. I believe that in almost any situation, this is going to be by a tilt margin to either candidate, and it's most likely going to go to Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump's home state now. He is doing well in terms of approval ratings in this state. And there's not much else to say about this. It is Florida. It's been close in every election in many years. It's going to be a close election again. Joe Biden was able to win it with Barack Obama twice, but Barack Obama was a different candidate to what Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is older and everything, and Donald Trump has the incumbency advantage. It hasn't gone against an incumbent since 1924 when Florida voted against Calvin Coolidge, so it's always going to vote for the incumbent, and I believe that this will not be any exception. Going over to the state of Texas here, we will go by a lean margin. Some polls here, also like Georgia, actually came out showing Joe Biden with a lead in the state of Texas, or just behind by a couple points. But I think in actuality, it's probably going to be about a put it a 3-point win maybe. You saw in the 2018 Senate race, it went by about 2 to 3 points, I think, to Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. But the trends are now more in play, especially in a presidential year. It might be a bit different. The trend, it went against Hillary Clinton by 9 points in 2016, and then went only by 2 points to Ted Cruz, who has a similar approval rating to Donald Trump, similar policies, things like that. But the trends would show that in a presidential election year, it'll probably be a similar result to what the 2018 Senate election was last year, even though last year with Beto O'Rourke in the 2018 midterms. This year, I feel Biden, who may not be as charismatic of a candidate, but would be able to harness the trends. I believe the state of Mexico would go likely, the state of Colorado will go likely. Now, the state of Colorado was one of the pure toss-up states in 2008 and 2012. It is now less in play. It's more of a blue state now. It's more socially liberal. Would side with Joe Biden on a lot of things. The moderates would go to Joe Biden, and the progressives would go to Joe Biden. And I think that they would turn against the Republicans as they have been in a number of years. The last Republican to be elected to nationwide office here was Cory Gardner in the 2014 midterms, who is most likely going to lose this seat, but probably by a closer margin to what the presidential election will be. But I believe the presidential election will be a likely margin. In the state of New Mexico, similar story. All the polls have shown it to be a wide out, huge victory for Joe Biden. Same thing with Bernie Sanders, but it is a blue state, so I wouldn't expect anything less than that. The state of Arizona, I believe it would go by a tilt margin towards Donald Trump. There was actually some polls here too showing that it could be in Joe Biden's column. I believe of all the trending states that you're going to put it like that, trending blue states, Arizona, Texas, Georgia. Arizona will be the first one to flip. Georgia will be the second one to flip. Texas will be the third one to flip. Arizona already flipped a Senate seat in 2018 with Kyrsten Sinema, who is a moderate, obviously. Mark Kelly I believe, has a very good chance of beating Martha McSally in the 2020 election. In presidential election, it might be a bit of a different story. This will be one of the last states called of the night due to the fact that it's a late poll closing and it's a close state. It'll be one of the last states called of the night, but at the end of the day, it is going to be called for Donald Trump by probably only a couple thousand votes. It is going to be, the trends are in motion here, and it's going to cause a crazy result from this state, but just maybe not crazy enough to flip it blue. The state of Nevada, I believe, will go lean. Joe Biden here, he is doing well here in the polls for the Democratic nomination. Obviously, that is not the whole electorate for the general election, but I believe that he'll still be able to do well here in this state. In the general election, he did well here with the presidential elections with Barack Obama. In the state, I don't think Donald Trump would put money resources into it if he wasn't able to win it in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. I don't believe there's much chance he'd be able to win it against Joe Biden, who's more popular, less elite, less corporate, a bit less establishment. We'll go over here to Nebraska's second district. I believe we'll lean. Not much to say about this other than it's a more Republican district than what it once was when it went blue in 2008. The state of Iowa would go. I'll put it at a lean. Actually, I'll put Iowa at a likely and Ohio at a lean. The approval ratings are both bad in the state, but I don't think that tells you the whole story. I will put Iowa at a lean because of the fact that if you look at the 2018 midterms, a wave year. Now Democrats, I think, out of the four House Representative districts, 3 of them are Democratic. The only one that's not is Steve King, who's obviously the bad Republican congressman, the racist one and everything. But the majority of the districts are dominated by Democrats. I think that that'll show you a lot about, I don't know, maybe they would flip them. I don't think they would just go out and flip them, even though they voted on impeachment and everything. But back to the president, the approval ratings are bad for the president here, and they do have a majority of Democratic congressmen and congresswomen. But it would still go to Donald Trump anyway by a lean margin. The state of Minnesota would go by a lean margin. If you had a candidate like Amy Klobuchar, it would go by a safe margin. Maybe you had a candidate like Elizabeth Warren, it would go by a bit of a less margin, maybe, and flipping towards Donald Trump. But if it were Joe Biden, I think you'd get something in the middle, a lean margin. He has some appeal to the Midwest voters here, less corporate vote and everything like that, obviously. And I believe that he'd be able to win this state by a lean margin. Going over to these three Rust Belt states here, the three states out of five, I think, that six actually, that Donald Trump was able to flip from Barack Obama. These three are going to be the most important. Two of them, actually, all three of them are traditionally Democratic states. But I believe at the end of the day, Wisconsin will go tilt, Michigan will go lean, and Pennsylvania will go tilt. If you look at it, Michigan especially, Michigan is a blue state. It's got two Republican senators, got two Democratic senators, a Democratic governor. It's been dominated by Democrats at the state legislature level. It was run by Obama both times, and it was won by Kerry, Gore. You just keep going back. It hasn't been gone Republican since it went in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, who was very unpopular in this state. But from the state of Michigan, Joe Biden would, I believe, handily win the state. The state of Wisconsin, however, is a bit of a different story. You had Scott Walker losing his governorship by 1.5 percentage points in a wave year, which shows that it's going to be a very close election. But if you look at the approval ratings, you look at the polls, they're not looking good for Donald Trump. Not a lot of them aren't even within the margin of error for him to win. And I believe that the state would go by a tilt margin, less than 1%. One of the last states called, but would go down to Joe Biden. And the state of Pennsylvania finally has a Democratic governor, has one Democratic senator, one Republican senator. The state legislature, I think, is a bit of a mix between Republicans and Democrats between the House and the Senate, obviously. But at the end of the day, again, this is going to be a tilt state for the Democrats. I think similar to what Wisconsin would be. It is a traditionally blue state, just like a lot of these states here, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And at the end of the day, it is going to go to the Democrats. I think that Joe Biden, if he can limit the amount of gaffes he has, if he can attack Trump where it hurts, the economy doesn't stay as good as it is, you could see this looking like the map with a 278 to 260 electoral victory for Joe Biden, which would make Joe Biden the 46th president of the United States, defeating the incumbent president Donald Trump. And yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later.